Okay, so when you think about your body's organs, what comes to mind? Probably the heart, right? Or your lungs, maybe your brain. But what if I told you you're overlooking the biggest, heaviest, and maybe the most impressive organ you have? Let's dive into the incredible world of your skin. Yup, you guessed it. It's that glorious, fleshy suit of armor that keeps the outside world out and you, well, in. It's your skin. And your skin, plus your hair, nails, and all the glands that come with them, that whole setup is called your integumentary system. Get this. On average, your skin weighs somewhere between 3 and 5 kilograms and covers up to 2 square meters. That's, that's enough to cover your entire bed with a waterproof, stretchy, self-repairing quilt. I know, a little gross to think about, but you have to admit, that's seriously impressive. And it does so much more than just hold you together. I mean, your skin is your #1 bodyguard, your first line of defense against nasty bacteria and viruses. It's your personal thermostat. It makes vitamin D from sunlight, and it's how you feel the world around you. It is a true multitasking marvel. All right, so to really get how it all works, we've got to take a journey through its layers. And we're going to start with the only one you can actually see, the epidermis. So the main character in the story of the epidermis is a cell called the keratinocyte. Think of it like this. These cells are born way down deep in the epidermis. As they get older, they get pushed up toward the surface. And all along the way, they're producing this super tough protein called keratin. By the time they get to the very top, they're basically just dead, tough, keratin-filled sacs that form your protective barrier. Trying to remember all these layers can be a bit of a headache, but luckily there's a handy little mnemonic to remember them from the top layer down to the bottom. Come, let's get sunburned. Now, please, do not take that as actual advice, but it is a pretty useful memory aid. So that CUM stands for stratum corneum. This is that outermost layer we were just talking about. It's about 20 or 30 sheets of those dead cells thick. This is the tough barrier that you are constantly shedding, making room for all the new cells pushing up from below. And if we go all the way to the bottom, the burned, we find the stratum basale. This single layer of cells is the skin's factory floor. It's constantly dividing. That process is called mitosis, cranking out all the new keratinocytes. You know when you get a callus? That's just this layer working overtime to protect you. But the keratinocytes aren't working alone in there. The epidermis has this whole specialized supporting cast. You've got melanocytes, which produce melanin. That's the pigment that gives skin its color and protects you from UV rays. You've got Langerhans cells, which are kind of like tiny immune system security guards, gobbling up any unwanted invaders. And then there are Merkel cells, which connect to your nerves and give you your sense of touch. Okay, so let's dive deeper. Right underneath the epidermis, we hit the dermis. And if the epidermis is the shield, well, the dermis is the command center. This is where the real action happens. And here's a super important difference. The epidermis is avascular. That means it has 0 blood vessels. All the nutrients it needs have to diffuse up from the dermis, which is packed with blood vessels. That's why the dermis is the hub of all the activity. And it's also why a little paper cut that only nicks the epidermis doesn't bleed. And believe me, this command center is absolutely packed. It's got blood vessels, nerve fibers, the roots of your hair, your sweat glands, which are basically your personal air conditioning system, and your oil glands. And this whole thing is held together by this strong, flexible mesh of collagen and elastin fibers. Oh, and get this, even your unique fingerprints are formed by little projections from this layer. So, given that the dermis is this crucial hub of structure and function, what happens when it gets really, truly damaged? This is why a scar is so different from normal skin. When you get a deep cut that reaches the dermis, the body's repair crew rushes in to patch things up with new collagen. But they don't lay it down in that nice, neat, woven pattern. They just throw it in there haphazardly. So the scar tissue isn't as flexible, and it doesn't grow back any hair follicles or sweat glands. It's basically a patch job. And here's a great aha moment for you. This is exactly why tattoo ink has to be injected into the dermis. If it was only in the epidermis, it would just flake off in a few weeks. All right, let's keep going. We're going to push even deeper, down to the skin's foundation, the hypodermis, and we'll check out the essential tools that are rooted in these deep layers. So the hypodermis, or subcutis, fun fact, it isn't technically part of the skin, but it's absolutely essential. It's made mostly of fat tissue. This layer is your body's built-in insulation, its shock absorber, and an energy reserve. And it's what anchors your skin to the muscles and bones underneath. The skin also comes with its own set of accessories or appendages. Your hair and your nails, they're basically just flexible strands and plates of dead keratin. Then you've got your sweat glands, your personal cooling system. And you've got sebaceous glands, which produce a natural oil called sebum that keeps your skin and hair lubricated and waterproof. We've seen how this incredible system works, right? But you really understand just how critical it is when you look at what happens when its protection fails. Brace yourself for this number. 1 in 5 Americans will develop skin cancer in their lifetime. That makes it the most common type of cancer in the United States, which just hammers home how vital skin health really is. And what's happening here? Well, it's when UV radiation, usually from the sun, damages the DNA inside our skin cells. And that damage can cause the very cells we were just talking about, like those basal cells down in the factory, or the melanocytes, to just start dividing uncontrollably. Burns are another huge threat to our skin. We classify them by how deep the damage goes. So first-degree burns, they're painful, but they only affect that top layer, the epidermis. Second-degree burns go a bit deeper into the dermis, and that's when you see blisters. But third and fourth-degree burns, they are just devastating, destroying all the layers of the skin and sometimes even the muscle and bone beneath. And here's a truly frightening paradox. The most severe burns can actually be painless. Why? Because the nerve endings in the dermis have been completely fried. But don't let that fool you. The real life-threatening danger is that the body's primary shield is just gone, and that leaves it wide open to massive fluid loss and overwhelming infection. So when you really stop and think about it, your skin isn't just some passive covering. It's this dynamic, living system that is working around the clock to protect you every single second of every day. It's the only protective suit you're ever going to get. Which kind of leaves us with one final thought. How well are you taking care of yours?